On this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock, all your questions from our hands-on demo answered. Horse health, robbing trains and swimming all explained. Plus, more details on money, time and the open world. It's all here on this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. Hello and welcome to this week's Red Dead 2 o'clock. My name is James and joining me for this episode is Rachel Webber all the way from the USA. Hi Rachel.
Hello, here from New York.
From New York, indeed. So you also saw the demo that me and Dan went through in the last episode, but you obviously would have had a slightly different experience to us from it because it's quite a dynamic demo, right?
Yeah, well that was the sense I got when we were running around, that a lot of things were happening kind of because of a ripple effect of things we'd done earlier. So I'm interested to see whether or not our experiences match up.
Okay, great. Well, we've got loads of questions from people who saw that episode and got in touch on Twitter and from the GTA forums. So what we're going to do this episode is just go through them and hopefully we'll be able to answer them together. Right, so let's start with Nathan17 from the GTA forums who said, how deep do you think weapon customization will be and will we see any exotic weapons? Now, I don't think we saw any in our playthrough, but did you get a sense of weapon customization at all?
Yeah, I think we got a sense that there was definitely going to be a really deep level of being able to change the way weapons look, the way you sort of adapt different ones. Obviously, this is, the Old West, so this isn't a case of upgrading space weapons with lasers and things, but in terms of sort of different types of weapons and different types of stocks and barrels, I think you'll be able to mod those within the game. But I think there'll be some authenticity to it, so don't expect anything too crazy.
No, and we definitely got a sense that the weapons get dirty over time, just like you and your clothes, and you have to maintain them and keep them clean. And if they do get a bit dirty, it will affect sort of the range and maybe the reload speed of them as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to see Arthur Morgan getting one of his rifles from his horse's saddle, because your horse is essentially walking luggage as well as a companion. And yeah, he gave it a clean off to improve accuracy and things like that. So I think that's going to apply to all your weapons. And I believe the dirt is persistent even on Arthur Morgan himself. So it's you're going to have to be spending a lot of time cleaning things and having baths.
Okay, right. Up next is 2Bit on Twitter, who said, do you sprint by tapping X or A on an Xbox, I imagine, or do you hold it in to run?
Do you know, I can't remember, but I have a sense it was holding in to run, because a lot of the time you're either going to be doing things stealthily or just sort of walking around town, and you're not going to be wanting to run everywhere. So I have a feeling you were holding down a button. Do you remember, James?
I don't. I think you're right, though, because the horse has different speeds that you tap to make it go faster.
Yeah, I think that's right.
Okay, let's leave it at that and move on to Event City on Twitter, who says, how realistic is the horse stamina? Can you just run non-stop at full to nearly full speed, or will you be forced to slow down and enjoy the landscape from time to time?
No, there is horse stamina is definitely a thing. Your horse can't go at full pelt the whole time. And I believe there's different types of horse have different levels of stamina, and it kind of can depend a lot on your relationship with your horse, things like that. So your horse is not a Ferrari.
No.
You will need to slow down now and again. But there was a really nice sense of speed to it when you were racing. So I'm looking forward to more of that. Yeah,
actually, when we were doing it, we were a little bit gung-ho with our horse and sort of pushed it to its limits. And it did actually collapse because it ran out of stamina. It just dropped down and was like, nope, I need a rest. So you can definitely wear them out.
Another note on horses, though, the better your relationship with them, the more you can unlock sort of different skills. So I don't know if, faster speeds will be one of those, but we got to see, sort of a nice rear, a little bit of fancy skidding as you came to a stop. And also, if you get a really good relationship with your horse, you can also do some fancy dressage, which is that weird horse dancing that people do on TV. So maybe speed is part of that.
Yeah, definitely. Well, as we're talking about horses, the almighty Crouch on Twitter has asked, do horses really have permadeath? After they die, what happens? Do you need to go out and buy and get another one?
I think so. We were told that, yes, your horse can die, and then that's it. There's no kind of respawning of your horse. You have to go and, I guess, lasso a wild horse or buy another one. So be real careful with your horses. I know in playing with some of I was trying to deal with a witness that was running away or riding away with his wagon, and I did the dead eye, and I accidentally targeted him and his horse, and the horse went down like a bag of potatoes. So horse death is real. It's something we all need to be very careful about. Look after your ponies.
Yes, very much. It was a different horse, I will stress. Not the one that we wore out, but one of them might have fallen off a cliff that we were riding, and it hit the bottom and its leg broke, and then it just was writhing around on the floor, and the message came up and said, your horse is seriously injured. If you don't fix it, it's going to die. But luckily we had some horse medicine, patched it right up. It's nice. In quite the grump with you after you throw it off a cliff, understandably. But then you give it a little pat and give it some food, and it comes back around to you again. It's fine. But I did actually buy a different horse from the stable, and that obviously was a new horse, so didn't have a good bond with it at all. And then when we got into a gunfight, it immediately ran off.
Well, or maybe it just heard about you from the other horses.
Possibly, yeah. Possibly the horses have been talking and it didn't want anything to do with me. But there we are.
I'm not sure yet about whether or not you can have sort of like Zelda, where you have a stable of horses, or if you can store them at camp. But I do know that if your horse gets too far away, the classic "I'm whistling for my horse" in a video game, it can come from anywhere. That only works if the horse can hear you. So be careful about leaving your horse somewhere and wandering off, because the realism in this extends to whether or not your horse can hear your whistle. So don't leave it on the side of a cliff or anything.
Yeah, and that's something actually Rockstar said to us, was if your bond is stronger, your whistle range is longer. So
that makes sense.
The more friendly you are with your horse, the further away you'll be able to whistle and it will come and find you.
You can choose and modify the saddles as well. So we saw some various fancy saddles. So you can, there's horse customization.
Yeah, well, you can plait its mane and its tail as well. Yeah. It's amazing.
Feed it oat cakes.
Right. Dezeko on Twitter said, can you rob trains anytime?
I don't know.
No.
I only got to rob one train, and that was very much a story mission. I didn't get a sense of whether or not, if I see any train, I can just ride up to it. Robbing a train seemed quite a complicated, multi-person job.
Well, we went to the train station in Valentine, and you could hear the trains coming and going, and Rockstar actually said to us that the trains run to a timetable, like a real timetable. So because you press down on the D-pad and you get the location and the time and the date in the game, you'd have to...
That sounds like maybe you can.
Yeah, I think you'd definitely be able to get on them, out in the wilderness if one was going by. Whether you can rob it or not, or you're just, you can just stand on it and ride it somewhere, I don't know. But yeah, maybe you can, and maybe you can stop them just, by putting a car in the middle of the track.
Yeah, you're absolutely an outlaw gang, so... I don't think you're going to want for train robbing. I think your train robbing needs will be filled.
Yeah, absolutely.
And who knows with Red Dead Online as well? I think that might be a big part of Red Dead Online, kind of working with other players to bring trains to a stop, maybe. Right.
Caesar on Twitter says, can you roll or spin like in the first Red Dead? Now, I imagine this is like combat moves. We saw the Max Payne style dive, which is definitely in there.
Yeah, I saw the dive. I don't remember rolling and spinning, but a lot of my combat was fairly chaotic, so it might just be that I was too busy trying to squeeze off a few dead-eye shots to notice. But I admire, Caesar, your attention to detail. Unfortunately, I cannot confirm or deny.
No, and I think much like the next question from the Red Dead community, does Arthur have a love interest?
Now... There's lots of ladies in the camp.
Yes. And in the towns.
Yes, and we went to visit a saloon, /inn, and one of the things you could do there was have a bath. And if you paid an extra 50 cents, you could have a deluxe bath in which a lady came to help you wash yourself. Now, I will point out, you don't see anything explicit someone else who was seeing the demo with me was pretty sure that a jostle was happening. I personally don't think there was.
Right.
Rockstar have emailed me to tell me she was just washing his leg, so that's the official word.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, he's definitely a hot-blooded American male, but we didn't see any signs that he has, a special lady in his life just yet.
No. Edward Rose on Twitter asks if there's anything notably carried over or vice versa binned off from GTA 5's mechanics.
It's hard to say because it's such a different feeling world.
Yeah.
It feels very much its own kind of universe. But I did. Do you know what the camp reminded me of when you would in GTA 5 when you would go home and your sort of family would be doing their own stuff there. Those were obviously like quite scripted, but when you're going back to the gang's camps, which will move around, but your gang will always be together there was a real sense that camp had its own schedule and people were there busy doing things. So it didn't matter what you were off doing, whether you'd gone off hunting or whatever, the camp life kind of carried on without you.
Yeah.
So I think it's kind of building on that thing of GTA of feeling like there's a real world with, things happening whether or not you notice them. I really liked that. I was very, I was excited about that because it just made it feel that much more authentic.
Definitely. And I think from a gameplay perspective, like the weapon wheel is very familiar that if you've played GTA 5. Although this one is slightly tweaked because you have to hold L1 and then if you select something on the wheel, you can then cycle through different weapons by pressing R1, I think, which at the beginning is a little bit confusing, but you soon get used to it. Okay, well, speaking of money, Constable on Twitter says, is the currency realistic to the time period? And I guess that means cost-wise.
I mean, I'll point you back to it being 50 cents to have a lady come and help you in the bath. I mean, I think that seems about right.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Small now.
Even the fact of like when we got a bounty on our head and it was like $15, which sounds like nothing, but actually it's in ye olden times that's quite a lot, to the point where Dan, when we were playing, it was like, oh, what's that come up on the screen, $15,000 bounty, and they were like, no, just $15. And I was like, oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, so when you're sort of looting bodies and stuff, you're lucky if you find a few cent, never mind piles of cash.
On the GTA forums, there is no bathroom, good username, asks, is it true that you can gain and lose weight?
I know that you can take food to the camp cook, so you can take your game, so that would suggest that sort of eating is a thing.
Yeah, we were told that you can.
Okay, that's interesting.
So if you're going around the world and you just eat cheese wheels all the time, then you do put weight on and you can lose weight.
That's fascinating, the idea of like people running around with really fat Arthur Morgans.
Yeah, like I don't know, it's probably not going to be like CJ levels of GTA where you get absolutely huge by eating all the chicken. And how it affects gameplay, like I don't know. Like I guess you'll be slightly slower.
Maybe it affects your relationship with your horse.
Yeah, right. The horse is sad because you're really heavy.
We did get to go and we went and had a shave.
Yes.
And did our hair. And like I said, had the bath because we'd got a bit dirty murdering some people.
Mm-hmm. BC Sims 04 on the GTA forums has asked, someone mentioned that we'll actually spend time in jail when the law arrests us, so it's not just a cutscene. Is this correct? And I nearly got arrested, but when we were playing it, Rockstar said that, if you get arrested, you're put in jail, and there's different scenarios that can play out. Sometimes you'll just be sat in the jail and serve your sentence. Like, I don't know how long that will be, like a couple of days, and I guess that just means sleeping through it a lot. But other times you can pay for your bond and be released, and sometimes your gang will come and actually break you out.
I like that. It just speaks to like how many... I know it's really usual for games these days to say like, oh, everything you do has an effect, but it really does feel like in Red Dead Redemption 2 that's true, and that all the things that would normally be just like, oh, you've been put in jail, oh, now you're back out on the street, but you're missing like $20 or something, the kind of, it feels like they've applied that kind of real world, what would actually happen in this scenario, to everything in the game, every tiny little detail.
Yeah. Okay, Red Dead Vibes on Twitter says, one thing we know about the story is that a bank robbery at the beginning is going to go wrong. Do you think that's how the story will start out? And will it put us right in the action after said events? It's something me and Dan talked about briefly in the show yesterday about how we think the beginning of the game is going to start. But we were interested in the fact that that bit hasn't been shown off. So we were wondering, like, is there a twist there ready to come out once the game is out?
I know that we were definitely told at the sort of start of our action, that first train heist you do, that, you know, the gang is very much on the run because of a bank heist gone wrong. We don't know much about why it's gone wrong. We know that John Marston has the injuries on his face.
Yeah.
He was, you know, when we started playing, he was recuperating, couldn't come on the train mission with us. I mean, I would expect a very cinematic opening scene from Rockstar. I wouldn't be surprised if there was kind of a bit of a twist in there.
It's interesting that obviously GTA 5 started out with a failed heist, and then this time it seems to be going down that route again. You just think that Rockstar probably wouldn't do exactly the same opening again. So just what is going to be in Red Dead that will give it a twist? Now, me and Dan said in the episode yesterday, maybe that's the time where you play as somebody different. Like maybe you play as Dutch in that opening section, but who knows? Moving on to AD Wolf on YouTube. Can you tell us about swimming and diving? Do you know much about swimming and diving?
Do you know, I didn't think to go in the water, but given the reality of all the rest of the game, I reckon you can probably swim.
Correct.
I think you probably can't dive.
Correct. There you go.
Oh, look at me.
Yeah, Arthur Morgan can swim, but not very well. So you can swim on the surface of the lakes, but you can't dive underwater and see what's under there. Equally, if you're on a horse, your horse can swim, and they're actually quite good at swimming. So they will bobble along and transport you across the lakes.
Oh, I love the idea of taking my horse for a little swim.
I think, you know, you don't want to put it through the middle of a lake. It'll probably run out of stamina and die. Keeping it to the shore is fine. Okay, Cap on YouTube. Did you see the first person in action?
Yes.
And how was it?
It was an option that kind of Rockstar scrolled through for me. Sort of at the end, it looked amazing. It obviously gives you a much better view of your horse's ears. It was very immersive. I don't know like how much I'll play of it in that way.
Yeah.
But it was a nice option to have. I guess it depends. It's the same with games like Skyrim, right? It's kind of, what do you prefer?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what's real nice about the first person is you can take in the vistas a lot more by just standing on the top of a hill and looking out.
Yeah.
That's probably when you're going to use it most because all of the scenery looks amazing if you're just standing there looking at it. Hustle8 says, do you think with the time aspect in the game means that you can only see some things at different times of the day, like at night time you can hunt specific animals or go on different side missions?
Yes, I would absolutely think that. I know, because like I said, I know that the camp runs to like a very specific schedule.
Yeah.
So I think there'll be certain times when people are around, certain times when people are off doing things. I think it's going to be the same in towns. You know, probably if you go and visit the saloon at 8 a.m, it's going to be a little quieter than if you go at kind of 10 in the evening.
Yeah.
And I think that'll all tie in with hunting and quests, and I think that's pretty standard for open world games these days as well, you know. And I think that's going to apply to weather as well. We got taken through sort of all the different weather effects,
right.
From like, you know, snow to big storms, clouds and fog and stuff. And I think that's all going to have an effect.
Yeah, I think when we went to the camp, Pearson, the chef there, was cooking a meal, and because we had built up a relationship with him, like he serves like a soup at the same time every day. So if you wanted to go and have it, that you had to go back at a certain time to eat the camp food. So I think it's all going to play into different times and locations and things like that. Timothy on Twitter asks, is there an option to consume tobacco or similar stuff in any form?
I don't remember seeing tobacco. I definitely remember picking up a bottle of spirits.
Yeah, well, we picked up a packet of cigarettes from a man.
Yeah, I mean, I think as well. There's like a collection thing to do with the cigarettes. There's cards, right, or something like that.
Yeah, like special packs.
Yeah, I mean, that feels very much of the time. So I would expect tobacco and cigarette to be there and have some sort of effects.
Yeah, well, you can actually smoke. We had a lovely little cigarette on the top of our horse. So he gets the packet out. He lights the match. I think he lit it like just on his beard or something. And then had a little smoke of the cigarette. And actually, smoking the cigarette improves your dead eye meter. Like it builds it back up.
Wild West.
Yes. So, I mean, it looked a little bit Metal Gear with you just sitting there having a cigarette. I don't know if it has any negative effects, but it's definitely dead eye related when we had a little puff on it. I think I know the answer to this, but let's see if you can confirm it. Deadpool for Life on Twitter says, is John Marston, I imagine, voiced by the same voice actor?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, we asked and they didn't confirm it. Well, they didn't confirm or deny it. They just said we're not confirming or talking about voice actors right now. But I mean, he sounded very similar.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's not on his IMDb yet. I did have a look this morning, but I think that's probably because anyone working with Rockstar is banned from putting anything on their IMDb. But yeah, it sounds, I mean, I spent quite a lot of time with John on a mission and sort of chatting to him in camp, and it sounds exactly like him.
Marley Mars 39 says, can you name your horse? I think doing so would make immersion and Bond feel more real.
I mean, you can name it whatever you want. Whether or not you can put it in the game, I don't know.
Well, that's true. Yeah, once you buy one, actually, yeah, you buy one from the stables, and when I bought one, it came up with, do you want to name it? And you press yes, and then it says, well, the default name is My Horse. But you can name it whatever you want. I don't know if it ever pops up like in the world after you've named it, but you can definitely name it.
Oh God, I'm gonna have a whole stable of weirdly named horses.
Yeah, you are. Absolutely. Back to the GTA forums. Delco Dude 1 on the GTA forums asks, what does the in-game map look like? Is it the paper style from Red Dead 1? Did you have a look at the map? Did you get to see any of the map?
We didn't get to see any of the map, which I think was probably a tactical decision. Did you see the full map?
We went to the map screen, but it's covered with the fog of war effect that you get in all the other games. So it only reveals the places that you've been to. And as we'd only been to Valentine and like the Heartlands, those were the only bits that were revealed. But it is in the same style as a paper map. It's got all the lines on it. It's got like a hand, what looks like handwritten things all over it. And it was absolutely authentic, massive.
But yeah, I didn't get to see the kind of full. I just, like you, I got to see sort of little bits. And obviously the mini map, which you can actually have a couple of different versions of, depending on how busy you want your screen to be.
Okay, I think we're on the last question from Jay on YouTube, who says, can you dress all in black? I'd like to be a badass John Wick cowboy.
Did you try any different outfits, James?
We went through the options of when we were getting our haircut and our cool mustache. We also went to the clothes shop. Actually, that's a good point. When you go and try on outfits, there are mirrors in the barbers and in your little hotel room, and the mirrors actually work. Like, you've got full reflections in there of you and the room behind you, and it's a proper, people get excited about mirrors in games.
How else are you going to know that you're getting chubby? You have to...
Well, yeah. Well, that's the other thing that we noticed, because we didn't have a rest for ages after doing all this killing and wandering around the open world. If you get more and more tired, Arthur Morgan, you can see him physically look more and more tired and disheveled. Like, he looked real grumpy by the time we were having a nice bed. So that's like a physical change, because you get it if you're having a fight with people in the world. You get physical bruising on your face and things.
Yeah.
But he also...
People will also comment on how you're looking and whether or not you're dirty or tired looking or you need a shave. The other NPCs really, especially in the camp, will really come over and have a word with you about it if they think you're looking untidy.
Yeah, and we mentioned this in the show yesterday, actually, but it actually relates to your honour system as well. So if you're being very honourable and living, quite a nice life and not being mean to people, the kill shots that you get, which are another new thing, which if you're having a shootout and you do a really cool Deadeye shootout, it might cut to a kill cam and you see whoever you've shot in the head going down all slow-mo and stylized. if you've got a really high honor rating, that will be really like a Hollywood style cowboy, exactly how you'd imagine it, like hero shot. But if you're going around robbing loads of places, being a bit of a badass, then those kill shots are a lot grittier, they're a lot dirtier, and it doesn't frame him in such a heroic way. But yes, back to the point about the outfits. We did go through a load of different costumes. There were loads of different coats and trousers and things, and even down to if you wanted spurs on your boots or not. I mean, you always want spurs on your boots. But I can imagine if you can change the horse's mane colour, you can almost certainly find a black jacket and trousers somewhere, and a black hat.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't feel like a big ask, does it, black? I mean, I feel like it's not like you were looking for a purple one.
Exactly. I think you'll be fine. Okay, I think that's most of the questions that we've had to answer that came in over the last 24 hours. If you've got any more, let us know, and we'll go through some more in the next couple of episodes, next couple of shows. As we said yesterday, let us know if you want to deep dive into any specific thing, and me, Dan, and Rachel can take you through, hopefully, the kind of things that we saw. Rachel, thanks very much for joining us from America.
No, thank you for having me. Yeehaw.
Yeehaw and all that. Let us know in the comments what you want to see in the next few episodes, and we will see you again next time.